Good day, everybody. Brian here from quantlabs.net. It's been another long delay since I've put up videos. Let's talk about C++ again. This time, the realistic way of learning C++. So I found this post on Reddit, the C++ subreddit group, and or CPP. So learning solid C++, how to learn advanced C++ now. Seriously, any Udemy course on C++ is lame. I don't find serious resources that goes from zero to important concepts. Popular C++ courses are extremely basic. I've talked about the books. I've talked about different methodologies, what compiler version. So now let's figure out what most coders that are successful getting to the point of C++ or implementing it. Sounds like you're at the level when you need to stop doing courses and tutorials, find a real problem and that needs to be solved, and just do it. You'll learn as you go. You'll learn advanced stuff from courses unless you actually apply it. This one is a top one. You're only a programmer when you write code. At some point you'll need to sit down and write the code. Do agree, but it's contradictory to do both. I usually blah 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 blah. Okay, so this is a wise tip here. Should you do both, I'd prioritize coding over classes. One of the things that I'll be doing in my group, if you go over to quantlabsnet.com, we can just get it in there. And go into the Learn tab, sign up and get my ebook for the C++ and high frequency trading. It's probably the most lucrative place to go for trading. Not an easy path, but if you're highly motivated, you could do well in that space. Anyways, continuing along, what this guy said, you need to do both, the classes and coding. Prioritize coding over classes. Programmers should probably code every day. It's a rare day when I don't write new code. I tend to add new aspects of C++ when I find something new that actually enhances my code. I just don't add new idioms for the sake of adding them. So you have to have a purpose. So what I plan to do with my stuff is, if you want to know about C++ and how to use it in the HFT space, high frequency trading space, you have to apply the concepts, implement them. And that's what I plan to do. And actually at some point, get them to live trade. Just understand, when you get into the space, you're not dealing with small potatoes. You're getting into big boy, fancy pants brokers, prime brokers. Probably require you a couple $100,000 in capital. So just understand, if you plan to get in this space, that's where you got to go. This is not some retail trading that you can do and then call it HFT, because that's not what it is. Just read CPP reference, study the standards, note the compilers, follow C++ tags on Stack Overflow, and read interesting questions here. I'm not sure what you're trying to learn anyways. Solving problems by coding tends to gravely fail to identify new tricks. Lots of excellent coders out there write code based on 10 to 15-year-old best practices. I think, from my perspective, if you want to be a real good coder, learn C. C was a very minimal language, had minimal resources, was way before the internet. Simpler language with literally just Cunningham standard, Ritchie standards, and that's it. If you can master C, you're going to be a good programmer and code C style. Some probably would argue that, but some of the code that I've seen in C++ just, it goes off off the rails quite quickly. But who am I? I'm just a coder that's been doing it since the late 80s, or mid 80s I should say, like basically been 14. So the need is often maybe to find a great YT video that focuses on one specific advanced topic. That's what this channel is all about now. I get it in the comments, get it in the emails of the new people that subscribe when they go to, again, the Learn tab and subscribe and opt in to my quantlabsnet.com. Don't drop out of courses, tutorials as a door opener, showing off new functionality or new coding styles based on library language improvements, because hardly anyone has the time to read through the latest standards. Start then once, twice per year, sitting out new tricks to memorize. I would agree with that. I'm trying to follow the concepts of how high frequency trading shops work and how they hire. I've shown in past videos that they are currently being September 26, 2024. They're still using the C++ 17 standards from the compiler. So if you learn from there, you should be okay. And then they're adding in implementations from 20 currently, but in the next few years, you'll probably see more 20 in the next, I don't know, few years. And we're already in 2024. So there are always a few major steps behind. And as I said, it's better to follow those standards on what the industry that you're interested in terms of coding, how they currently trend in terms of hiring. I don't want to sound off-putting, but I think advanced will come with you when you bite on advanced problems. That's very true. So if you're trying to come in from zero knowledge into HFT, I think you're going to get easily overwhelmed. You do have to have a certain level of competence when it comes to C++ or C or C++. A lot of the C Linux kernel is written in C. I'm sure you heard Linus go off on C++. He's liking more Rust. I think Rust is going to be the next generation that'll take off, but currently, as I keep reading, if you want a job, you stick with C++. Rust over the years will get to a point where it will become so mainstream like Java, or maybe replace C++, but from what I've read, it could take up to 10 years for that to take place. Or maybe beating thorny problems with a basic subset of the language is the real fun. Yeah, that's true. I like C++ conferences replays on YouTube for more advanced topics. Bingo. Let me see that on the camera. Yes, it's very true. That's not some people think that's some kind of racial thing. Please. Anyways, but yeah, I think C++ concepts replays are very good. And that's a good place to learn. There's specific ones on trading and high-speed trading as well, and network infrastructure, low latency, So somebody asks, advanced C++, not sure if advanced enough, but I think that the Chemo on YouTube has great content. I don't know. So the Chemo is more intermediate. If you want to get exposed to advanced, you can watch CPP conference talks on YouTube, but you don't learn to apply the stuff you see there. It will just be a starting point where you can look stuff up. Yeah, another good place I like to look at is source code of GitHub repositories. So if you are interested in learning maybe a piece of how a trading system works in C++, look at the source code on GitHub, the repository. There's tons of platforms out there written in C++. Now, other people go, well, I want to learn Java, I want to learn Python. That's fine. I've done Python for the last 5-6 years. It's a fantastic language, but to advance to the next level in terms to get into the 500,000, million plus, C++ is where you want to go. Python is definitely there as well, but to know C++ and Python together, it will pretty well double your chances of getting really, really high-paying jobs. But you gotta be really good. LearnCPP.com shows more comments about this. Here's a really good reference for a book. Modern C++ by Mike Shaw in YouTube teaches important concepts as generics, classes, pointers, and reference. RAII, STL templates. Templates is getting pretty popular for the high-speed stuff. So there's that as well. My suggestion is to write high-performance code. For example, matrix multiplication and so forth. This is key for quant-related stuff. So if you get your equation, your formula, some kind of algorithm that's really complex that needs to be implemented from a real quant trading desk, and you have to be the quant coder to implement that. This is where you need to build up your skills. As simple as that might sound, there are numerous aspects to consider involving things like caching hierarchies, compiler optimization, and containerization. Another advanced concept, although not C++ specific, is studying the last inverse square root algorithm. Wow. There you will learn how much thought can go into optimizing classical algorithms, how to apply approximation techniques to specific problems. That's just another way of saying this guy's probably an HFT coder. A cool experiment involving multiplication and scalability. When you start playing around with large matrices and measuring the computational time, bingo, I talked about that in the ebook using the Google, what's called the Google, I can't remember the name, but it's basically toolkits, toolboxes to measure time on computational processing. Computerization involved, you increase the matrix elements, clearly demonstrate advanced topics such as cache hits and misses impacting performance metrics. Also, you can then investigate how floating points can impact your algorithm. Man, that stuff is gold right there to get into, to really impress the recruiter at an HFT firm, to really know that gold, we'll call it nuggets. Everyone here keeps saying learn CPP.com, but most of its content is outdated and never close to the advanced C++. The ads, man, okay, whatever. Let's see what they say about this site. Lots of its content mind pointing, which also, would you suggest any book? They point it to themselves inside the lessons, but have one place for the whole site. I'm a junior, can't suggest any source, but I use CPPreference.com and a book called The Linux Programming Interface. There you go again. Another important book I would suggest, and completed by the Udacity C++ Nano degree. Still, I'm far from suggesting any appropriate. I appreciate any suggestion by the experienced engineers here. So there you go. One of the experienced engineers, as I said, was this one on the scalability using multiplication. That's genius. I'm surprised nobody suggested this yet, but there's a great series of books from Scott Myers. He's another legend in the world of C++. Every book with C++ a name, he is a respected persona in the world, so feel free to mention his books. What are these books you speak of? I'm amazed everyone's scrambling to find YouTube videos to teach programming when there is a vast collection of excellent C programming books out there. Yeah, that's the thing. When you learn through YouTube programming, you're probably having the blind lead the blind. I find the books are more structured, and there's more order to it as well. And I guess people want free, but if you want to be a professional advanced programmer, you may need to invest in yourself. Yeah, that's very true. If you're trying to do it on the cheap side, I guess, it'll show. It'll show in the interviews. It'll show in the results. As mentioned, the Effective C++ series, fantastic series. Let me just kill this. Modern C++ by Alexander Rescue. Though the language keeps changing because they can't leave it alone, the fundamentals are still very relevant to understanding how it really works as the new layers are added. You do realize Myers quit C++ before 17, so it's very dated at this point. Did not know that. I used to love his books, concepts, learning, YouTube, and better suited for simple libraries. Have you read C++ Semantics Complete Guide, C++ Templates? So this C++ Templates, the Complete Guide's pretty popular. You may want to download, again, this book here kind of covers all the aspects of what goes into a training system. Again, quantlabsnet.com/registration or learn tab. So a lot of these books go very deep, and a lot of detail might be what you're after. This is the key to get into the C++ stuff, is to do memory, um, networking, the current Linux kernel itself. One aspect that a lot of the HFT shops do in interviews is asking about concepts of building out C compilers. This is how deep they go. This is how deep they test you. You can't just go in, read a couple of books, and expect to pass that because it's pretty hard to do. If you want to learn language features from zero to advanced C++ programming language, if you don't want to read a book, check out the reference. If you want to learn proper software design using, there's several good books. Again, always comes to the books, not the online stuff, the sites and the YouTube. Some of these mentioned in other comments. If you still want to read a book, then want CPP Con. That's a good resource because that's where all the living legends industry get together and talk about what they do with C++. Conference videos on YouTube. If the regular talk sounds too advanced, start with CPP Con to basics video. And I will tell you the CPP Con videos, conference videos, can be very, very advanced topics. So you got to know your stuff again. Book by Dmitry Nesterik, very good resource here. Yeah, this gets pretty deep stuff, but this is C++. It's like checkers. Kind of easy to learn, but hard to master. Welcome to the world of wanting to learn C++ advanced. I've been here for years. So that's another thing is you got to focus only on one language. You can't do it all, like Python, Java, C#, and then C++. You can only focus on one language to fully appreciate the language and fully involve yourself time-wise, because C++ is a very deep level language. Every day for decades, my C++ library is nearly 1 million lines. I still look for increasingly advanced coding techniques every day. Do you hear what's being said here? This is that people are living C++. Like if they call their wife, it's C++. It's not wife their, female name or whatever, their companion name. It's C++ is their companion. That's where they're spending a lot of time to get to this level of mastery, I guess, because they like doing it, they love doing it, they probably love the compensation they're getting for it, and they love being in demand for it, being in a situation where they are demanded. Lots you could do with tools, AI, source analysis, but at the end of the day, good code is code which is easy to read and change that actually gets used. It has to be simple too. Deep, complicated C++ or C is probably no good. It has to be what they call mnemonic. It has to be readable. It has to be where somebody can read it like a book and understand what you're trying to do. I keep hearing, oh, comments are not needed. If somebody can't really understand the code, you're not doing your job. If you're doing it to protect your job and being the person that you cannot be fired because you're the only one that has this piece of code that and if the company doesn't have you anymore, they're in trouble. If you code like that, yeah, I think you should be booted out of a company, never have a job, never be in the space and let the AI do its thing to replace you. That's my belief on that. Keep your code fresh and alive. Rewrites are always welcome. Refactoring, it just keeps, it's not just compiling that you should have unit tests and integration tests, so on. Pretty standard programming there. And I think C++ leads in this area and innovates in the area as well, and all the other languages fall in line. Take forever, but again, you can leverage AI for most of that, and that's where AI is good for that programming style. My list of ongoing C++ research topics only ever gets bigger, but it's clear looking back, the coding better and better. The code I keep giving more and more bang for my buck. There you go. Let me repeat that. The code I keep writing gives me more and more bang for my buck. So the more experience you get, your pay scale goes up because you become more valuable to let's say a trading firm, and that means you're hopefully having your code add revenue, and that's another key to keep your job, to keep your career adding revenue to the firm. That's important. As for homework, if you're comfortable with templates, and have written your own containers with full move semantics, then maybe try to implement a fast cuckoo hash map. Hands down to the Chemo from YouTube. He's been the engineer of Frostbite, engineer of EA games. So there's another difference here between trading, finance, high frequency trading, algo trading, coders versus something like game developers. And I've heard more and more firms are going to into that space to hire good coders from the gaming field, because maybe they have standards that a lot of the advanced C++ coders in finance don't have. I don't know. Could be a generational thing. I don't know. Usually at this point, your transition from learning to the language to seeing an actual area of interest where you want to apply it. If you're interested in system programming, again, this is an important part, system programming, not application program. Look for a book that talks about it and implement things like OS and drivers in C++. Also, this can lead into FPGA and hardware and optimizing hardware and embedded software and all that. Again, that's the next generation in ultra low latency in those type of firms, and they keep getting more intelligent, adding in the AI elements as well. Other fields like computer graphics, cryptography, and networks. Networks is the big one in the HFT world, and that can be, as I said, in the hardware side. Here's what I did, among other things. Go to Stack Overflow. People will poo Stack Overflow. I think that's probably the first go-to place I would go. Even asking questions, I don't see any harm in that. As long as you show a piece of code that you have worked on, there will be sometimes people that will help you out, and I'm not ashamed of doing it. If you're a student trying to get your homework done using Stack Overflow, obviously that won't work. Find the C++ tag, sort the number of votes, and start reading. I made a little habit of reading one question a day over morning cuppa, and after a few years I got about to page 20 of the search results, which point the search engine breaks down a little. Then I started again the second time, understood a bunch of stuff which been above my level the first time. Interesting tip, that might be a little kind of, I think I got to do the coding first and then start looking for related Stack Overflow questions for an answer. Again, nothing wrong with it. I did that with the Python. But even when I didn't understand something, it was valuable because I learned how much there was that I didn't know. I learned more and more by doing this and did from any book or course. I'm doing the same for Python now. I don't know about that. I still want to follow a book over anything else. Read good authors. Scott Meyers, Effective C++. This guy, Arthur O'Dwyer, Andrea Alexandra Escu, Weekly C++ by Jason Turner, great too. I've also mentioned ACCU in a recent post. Let's see that one. I think it was ACCU. All purely C++. So this is a really good one. So lots of news, interesting, monthly digital magazines you can get, download, all C++. I've never seen any of the resources go into something like C++ compared to other languages other than Python. A lot of excitement with C++ and obviously Python as well. For beginner, I recommend Back to Basics series on CPPCon. Arthur O'Dwyer does an awesome presentation. Michael Shaw, nice introduction on his playlist. Warn you, it is pain and learning is not easy, and watching a Udemy course. Multiple reasons that make C++ is a pain. Firstly, Scott Meyers put it, C++ is not one language, but a federation of languages. More of you mentioned important concepts. C++ is a language that pays a lot of attention to very small detail. Yes. Not a language of big concepts. CPP or C++ is a language of thousands of little concepts. It's like some I can never say this, infinitesimal approximation to somewhere. That's just a fact of life with C++. It's a large language, And it seems like every bit of it has some gotchas and exceptions. Oh, yeah. That's why I didn't follow through with it. You should not expect that there is a simple course and will handhold you on a paved path to find some final and ultimate mastery of C++. That could be said the same concept of just learning low latency algo development and trying to do high frequency trading, ultra low frequency trade, ultra low frequency trade. I think you need, to be honest, you have to be in there with a firm with the experience you can pick up from. Obviously, those secrets can't go with you into another job because then, well, you may have a problem with the legal or lawsuit from firm to firm, so you may not do that. But it's still good to get into the mindset of how some of these firms develop. The bigger ones, obviously, the better. C++ is a systems language. Very true. Same with C, which means that it works with the CPU directly. I mean, outside of Java, not many languages can do that, or with the GPU in case of SYCL. And remember, if you're into the buzzy NVIDIA, it has its own interface and even its own compiler as well on the NVIDIA GPU as well. Although you can ignore CPU architecture for a while, but one way or another, learning C++ means that you'll need to learn how the CPU and computers work. It is worth to be aware of this too. And that leads you down to another path of high frequency trading. Again, I cover all of this in this under the Learn tab at quantlabsnet.com. Just go there and understand it. Currently learning it by reading a tour of C++. When I'm done, I'll try some projects. The more I learn it, the more I dislike it. Again, it's all about passion. If you're at a point you don't like it, then get out and do something else. Some features like templates and moderate use of classes is pretty cool, but there is also some weird stuff, like ranges, for example. This weird iota thing. Why simple for a loop isn't okay. I use C a lot and don't remember making bugs in a dam for a loop. Oh well, cool language anyway. So this is a guy that's got just understand the concepts of loops, because those are extra iterations on the processor, and that's what you're trying to avoid. Regarding projects, try to implement simple terminal multi-user chat or maybe some simple games. No. That's not how it works with C++. You can do that with any other language, but C++ is different, as the prior comment said about a system language. Professional C++ by Grigori is a great resource, all staying up to date with CPP conference talks through YouTube or attendance if your company will fund it. Okay, again, here's a guy talking as if this language is his wife. Practice and meditation. For the rest of your career, play with toy projects, read articles, and watch videos from people who have accomplished amazing things. And think about code you've written before and how you could have done it differently or better or more optimally. Probably a better way to put it. CPP, lightning talks, and back to basic videos are great for this. Don't sleep on back to basics. We take the basics for granted, but understanding how, why they work as they do in detail will help you develop an intuition for building on them in ways that fit well with what's already proven. So again, if you haven't picked up on this, this is where you love the language, you like working with it, you like to optimize your algos and the code. If that's what you're doing and that's what you want, that's what you live for, and you're willing to put all the time in, you could do very well in this space, specifically, again, high frequency trading world and the like. This talk is an old one, but it's a good one for going through the steps of considering a complicated looking piece of code and seeing it just doesn't do the hard way something, but the standard library can do it for you. I've read the book, did advanced templating and modern C++ stuff at work. So again, templating is a big one. Assign yourself a project, contribute to an open source project, or write some library code. Again, I've said that prior. That's why I brought in Mark in that interview a while back. And he's got the right patterns. He's now putting himself into the school of NYU. So he's he's getting the education around it as well. How about a little web crawler written C++ and ASIO, or something more modest to start? Maybe write your own std tuple implementation, but add a twist of your own, like using composition instead of inheritance. I think this is important as well. One thing you need to realize is a lot of the HFT shops and firms write their own libraries. They write them for their own optimal purposes. They don't use a lot of third-party, a lot of open source. A lot of code is developed in-house because it's optimally developed for what they need. It's kind of rare, especially in the big ones, where they'll step out and use third-party code. I'm an academic standpoint, at least in my state, Advanced C++ is presented as computer engineering programming. 2 at my university, it covers topics like polymorphism, recursion, and analysis of algos. That's one of the big benefits of C++ and why it's used in networking and infrastructure and the like. Understanding why you should and how to avoid embedded iteration can be helped. This sort of thing is the next step is DSA and C++. Basically, learning the most common algorithms for handling data structures, dynamic programming. Yeah, algorithms is a big thing in the world of, especially when you get into quant research, implementing your own trading ideas with the math side using pure quant. Iterative process code and learn. Learn C++, followed by Codecrafters IO. C++, in fact, fairly easy. Let me see again. If you need more proper challenges that require you to go there, you should read it in books. But all these edge cases are useless if you ever need them. That's true, but the edge cases are for the firm and for their needs, so it might not work for others as well. Anyways, that's pretty well a good coverage of how to get into it, but the key is you have to have the passion for it. You have to have the love for it. You can't just say, I want to get into C++ programming because the money's good. You have to live it, breathe it, want it, marry it, and sleep with it. That's pretty well it. That's the key. Anyways, if you want to know more and you want to know specifically for C++, we're going to start up some new stuff come first week in October. After the 7th, I got some concepts. If you want to know about it, you got to be on the email list. Otherwise, I'm not going to be putting as much into YouTube. It'll all behind the email newsletter, along with a potential, well, it will be behind a firewall as well. We'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.